Good morning, all, and welcome back to this week's episode of Bedroom Discussions. It's Sunday morning, and I think the topic for today is probably voting or politics. But before we get into it, if you like what you hear, please like the video and subscribe.
That's right.
So today, I think we were just talking about there's just so much stuff going on in the media, and if you watched our last video, we talked about how this is an election year. And my husband started talking about voting and all that stuff. And I don't know if any of you have been following social media like really hardcore, but a lot of celebrities have come out and said some things about Democrats versus Republicans and what they can do for us and what they haven't done for us or what they could possibly do for us. One star that's been very vocal is a very prominent rapper and actor, Ice Cube. He said a few things, and my husband was like, he's right. You know, he was like, what are they going to do for us? What are the Democrats going to do for us? What are the Republicans going to do for us? What is anybody going to do for us?
Right.
You know, we have to make our own rules. We have to do our own thing. So I said, you know what? That's probably a good topic because I guess I never really thought about it because growing up, you know, in a household, we were always just Democrat. Just never really thought about it. It's just what we were. But now that I'm older and I'm grown, it's like, okay, I can make my own decisions. And now I know that neither one of them are really all that great.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing is to say the lesser of the two evils because they're both in it. Both sides are in it for money, you know, and it's all about greed and stuff. So politics are not the most honest people in the world. But my husband has some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
He'd like to share too, that he could probably go a whole lot deeper than I could. But
no, it's not really, going that much deeper. This to me, this stuff is like surface level stuff that we just never noticed. So, like you said, growing up, we were just, Democrat, and that was pretty much it, and then, as you grow older and especially with the, advent of the internet and everything like that, you learn a whole lot of things that you didn't know before, like how Republicans actually, wanted, more rights for African Americans and things of that nature. And to hear it now, you would have never guessed based on, how they talk and everything like that. And, but like you say, there's, I guess you could say lesser of two evils. I mean, they both still suck though. But I guess my thing is like, a lot of people came out, against Ice Cube talking about, oh, well, Trump's the problem. And I was like, when you think about it, like, especially, so you guys, while you don't see us, you'd have to guess by how we're talking that we're at least, black. Okay, so you can so you can get that out of your
we are of the darker persuasion,
right? So but a lot of people, especially in our community, are talking about, oh, how Trump's the problem, and as soon as he's gone, everything's going to be right again. And I'm just like, when has everything been right? Like, the few times that our people have come together to do something, they were, completely wiped off the map in a lot of ways. And both the Democratic and Republican parties were there when it happened, and neither one of them cared. So it's like, I don't believe this new Biden-Harris ticket is going to solve anything for our community. So I don't think that, just voting for Biden is the thing to do, because right now we're doing the same thing that we did with Obama. We're like, we're voting for the one who's going to give us the most hope. That's great. But we're not, holding any of them accountable for, what kind of plans do you have, for our community? How are you going to help, get more funding to our schools, more fresh foods to our neighborhoods, things of that nature. So it's like, I don't think that Trump is the issue. He's magnified it. He's made it more well known. I think, and while I'm not thanking him for that, at the same time, he's, kind of opening a lot of people's eyes, especially in our community, who tried to act like things were fine before. So
it's like this world is, this country, I should say, the United States was, built on racism and things like that. And it's so deeply embedded and woven into our dynamic. It's like a cancer. It's hard to remove cancer, as we all know. So people are just trying to go along and act like everything's okay, and they keep trying to cover it and bury it up, bury it and cover it up and bury it. And when Obama got into office, people tried to act like racism was gone because, oh, we have a black president. And I'm like, no, it's still there.
You just made it worse.
And then Trump comes into office and he just like reminded everybody, hey, guess what? It's alive and well. And I say it's all right to wave your racist flag high and say what you want to say and do what you want to do. But it's always been there because people forget that Black men were still being beaten and shot and killed even under Obama
and every other president.
But people,
you can just see it.
You can just see it now because we are going through this pandemic and everybody's eyes are glued to the TV 24/7, and so we're forced to look at it now.
So I mean, bringing it back to voting though. A lot of people were trying to say, oh well, our ancestors died for this right, to vote, and they did. But when you are dealing with a system such as white supremacy, you have to understand that deceit is a primary function of that system. So, you got to understand. So, isn't it like, just think about this for a second, and this is just me thinking out loud. So if you're in control of basically everything that happens to a group of people and you want to keep it that way, wouldn't it be advantageous to you to give them the illusion that they have some type of control? And that's what voting does. It gives you the illusion that you have some type of power. So you're going out and telling all these other black people to go vote, go vote, go vote. And as soon as we vote, nothing happens. None of us do follow up, and we're right back to, where we started. You know what I'm saying? So, again, if anything didn't teach us anything about voting in this last, the last election when Hillary was running, if anything, it just shows that our votes don't matter, because it doesn't matter how many people vote for, the people running.
Because the electoral college, they're going to be the ones that make the decision anyway. It's like, so what's the point?
So, so it's just interesting because I think on a large scale, voting is more of a distraction than anything. Because if you really, look, I don't know what the rates are that other people vote. But I hardly ever hear anybody, any other minority, and I know there are other groups out there that complain about politics and everything like that. But at the end of the day, like, you don't hear about Asian folks, being beat up by the police on a regular basis or anything like that. You want to know why? Because they're getting their money right, and they're putting themselves in positions of power and things of that nature. So I'm like, I think we as a community are focusing on the wrong things. I'm not saying that you can't go and vote. You can go and vote, but I'm just saying, don't act like that's gonna fix everything. There are other actions that we as a community need to do. We need to get our money right. We need to get our finances right. And because that's how you affect change. Like all these groups of people that get laws passed and things of that nature, they're paying these politicians. They're lobbying these politicians, and they're doing it with money. That's the only way. Well,
it makes the world go around.
Right. Like, okay, so that's not the only way, but that's probably one of the most
primary ways.
Right. That's probably one of the primary ways to get what you want out of politicians. You give them money, because we all know that's what they operate on. Now, is that right? Okay, probably not. But we as a group of people, if you want to change something, we gotta do something different than what we've been doing. I'm not mad at anybody that wants to protest. If you want to protest, that's fine. But we've been protesting for a really long time, and
where has it gotten us?
I don't really see where it has gotten us. Don't get me wrong. Everything has a time and a place, and those protests have made some changes in history, but we're still talking about protesting.
Yeah.
We're still talking about voting. Two things that we're still doing that haven't really moved the needle forward.
And it's what, 2020 now?
Right. So I just feel like, we need to try and do something else. Again, I'm not knocking anybody that wants to vote and not knocking anybody that wants to protest, but I've had people come after me because I was like, I'm just not going to vote, and they're like, oh, well, you're part of the problem, and you're going to be one of those people complaining when stuff doesn't go your way. I'm like, first off, I'm not gonna I have no plans on complaining about whatever laws and whatever nonsense that people come up with. Because at the end of the day, you can either choose to abide by that rule or you can not choose to abide by that rule. So, it is what it is on that. But, me being part of the problem, we can beg to differ on that. I just feel like there's other ways to affect change in our political system. And, I don't believe that voting is the only way. I think a lot of people that think that y'all are part of the problem because y'all ain't got no follow-up.
It's
y'all
like
ain't doing nothing
you're
else.
Going to the polls and voting and saying, all right, I did my civic duty. And then you're just sitting back hoping everything will change.
Right,
it's not going to. So you have to actually, and I always say, hit them where it hurts in their pockets.
Yeah.
Like how the NBA, their form of protest was not to play. They didn't want to play in the league. They were like, until police brutality stops happening, we're not going to play. And then we found out by watching something on social media that a sneaky little snake went behind the scenes and convinced LeBron, James, and Chris Paul to, not do this. They were like, oh, don't do this, don't protest. How about we use some of the NBA, I guess where they play arenas as like a polling place.
Yeah, like a polling place.
And pretty much manipulated these guys who were pretty adamant about what they were doing. And, he manipulated them and pretty much said, if you guys stop protesting, we'll use the arenas as voting places, and, it'll be fine. Kind of just trying to get them to sweep it under the rug, And I'm like, there they go, trying to stifle. We're trying to hit their pockets, trying to get the money. And this person that was trying to stifle them and got into their heads to manipulate them was former President Barack Obama. And I was shocked to hear that, but then again, I wasn't, because he's a politician, so he's just as dirty and grimy as the rest of them.
Right. Just
because he's black doesn't mean a goddamn thing, pardon my French.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I heard that on social media, I was like, well, ain't that about a bunch of nothing? Yeah. So, and I said, they were the NBA, like LeBron and Chris Paul, they were going for the right thing. They were like, get them where it hurts, in their pockets, do it. And they were on their way until they let someone manipulate them. But they think so highly, everybody thinks so highly of, former President Barack Obama because he was the first black president. People think so highly of them and they put him on this pedestal. And I'm like, you guys got to realize he's just a human being, and he's just as grimy as all the others before him and the ones that will come after him.
like, don't get me wrong. Like, he's a smart dude, very intellectual, charming dude. I totally understand that. He's probably been one of the most relatable presidents in a really long time. But again, at the end of the day, he's a politician. He's gonna do what he's got to do for him and his family. Look, I'm not mad at the game that he's playing, but people got to understand that it's a game that they're playing. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't even understand that, and I was one of them people, especially a long time ago. I had no clue. I
don't think any of us really did.
But again, I think just a lot of us are just being, are getting hip to the game because of all the things that are going on right now.
And I think a lot of people have been brainwashed too to believe that's because one of my family members believes that as soon as the Democrats take back over the Senate and everything's going to be all right. And as soon as the Democrats get back in their rightful place, everything's going to be all right when Biden and Kamala get in there. And I'm like, it's not going to be, everything's not going to magically be okay once the Democrats take back over whatever you think they should. But I mean, that this particular family member is very adamant about what he says, so I just listen to him and let him talk.
Yeah.
And everybody has their opinion and they're entitled to it. So I just listened and I was like, well, that's your opinion. That's what you think.
Right.
I don't think so, but go ahead.
Right. Yeah. I think we're all, missing, key components, and when it comes to things being all right, like you're letting your fate be handled by effectively a bunch of strangers, because you don't know none of these people. They say they're here for you, but their actions have not proven it. Both Democrat and Republican have said, promise their base a whole lot of things and never delivered on most of them. Are they bad people? I can't make that determination. But what I can say is that they haven't delivered on what they said that they were going to deliver. I mean, I understand there's opposition and all that good stuff, but you when all you're doing is talking a good game, it's just kind of like, at what point are you going to look at these people and be like, well, I can't depend on these people to, make sure that my family is good at the end of the day. I got to figure out a way to do it myself. And most people don't ever come to that point because they're so die-hard about being a Democrat or so die-hard about being a Republican. And all I'm saying is both sides are fucked up. Any party that you find in the political system is going to be fucked up. I don't even know if I can say that. My bad. But it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to just keep relying on these individuals that don't seem to be able to deliver most of the promises that they say that they were? Matter of fact, any of the promises that they say are going to deliver on. I mean, especially for the Black community, it's like, we're still talking about the same things that our grandfathers, our great grandfathers, and our ancestors were talking about. Like, why are we still supporting a system that is not going to benefit us in any way, shape, or form? But yeah, that's just some of the nonsense that's going on. But real quick, I don't know how much more time we got, but there's a book that I'm reading, and this is where I got the idea about voting being a distraction, and just to me it just makes a lot of sense. The book is called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter-racist code, and it's by Neely Fuller Jr. Excuse me. So
That's a mouthful.
I know, right? Neely Fuller Jr. In the excerpt that I read, states that, he's talking about politics, of course, and he says, playing games with so-called voting systems and do so in ways that cause their victims, non-white people, to think that non-white people have constructive power that they do not have. These so-called voting systems are designed to deceptively allow non-white people to choose between two or more forms of mistreatment. And then in parentheses, he has injustice. So, I mean, when I read that, I was like, that is exactly what this system has been designed to do, to give us the illusion. And when I say us, I'm talking about everyone that experiences injustice on a daily basis. Yes, even white people. It is based on a system of injustice. There are means to make sure that everyone has justice and that there is fairness and that everyone can get what they need. But because there are people placed in positions that only are out for themselves, and want all these resources, material things, and they're just using their greed for their own benefit, this is just one of the many things that are used to distract people in general, but specifically non-white people. And that's why, when people are like, oh, well, you're not, if you don't vote for Biden, then you're obviously pro-Trump. And I'm like, no, that doesn't, that not at all. Just because I don't like one candidate does not mean that I have to like the other. And that's part of the problem. Like
they want you to pick and choose.
Right. They want you to pick a side. And it's like,
you don't have to.
Like, why do I need to pick a side when, either one of these sides, when neither one of them have my interest at heart? They only have their own. So I don't see the point in voting for a president or vice president that isn't going to do anything for me. I'm not, whatever achievements that they have made in their life, that's great. But none of them have helped out our community, and they have no intention of helping out our community. So yeah, that's how I feel about voting, especially in this election.
I feel the same way, and I'll always say the lesser of the two evils. I still vote because I do feel as it is my right to do it.
Right. Yeah.
But I always say the lesser of the two evils, and so I'm gonna just do what I've always done. But I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's whatever. At the end of the day, I'm like, fine, I voted, but I know change will not really happen until we go in there and figure out a different kind of plan.
Yeah, I think another key a key concept that a lot of, especially my Democratic voters, don't realize, especially in our community, that Democrats have been very deceptive in their racism. They've slid a lot of crime bills, under the door without our even recognizing what was happening until it was far too late.
Yeah.
I'm referencing Bill Clinton here, who everyone seems to think was, for some reason, the first black president. And that's only because he was, again, charming, and he could play the saxophone and, and all this other dumb nonsense that we all fell for. But he was one of the main culprits in putting a lot of black men specifically in jail, who are still in jail. And even though he's gone and apologized for it, I was like, you knew what that was doing back then, yet you didn't care enough to be like, nah, this isn't right. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry. I always make the joke. I always like to try to throw something funny in there. We're big followers and big fans of like the greatest comedian of all time, Dave Chappelle. And when, I think about Democrats and Republicans, I kind of think about like North and South. Mm-hmm. I feel like, the Republicans, they're like the Southerners. They're just like, tell you, hey, nigger, they'll just be like all loud. But the Democrats are like the Northerners. They're still racist, but they try to hide it. Mm-hmm. But they're low-key racist too. Yeah. They be thinking thoughts. They just don't say it to your face. Yeah. But the Republicans, they'll just say it to your face. They don't care.
Well, see, I mean, and for me, I think Malcolm said it, something to this effect, like Republicans will say it to your face while like Democrats will, do stuff behind your back. He said, I'd rather somebody come tell me to my face rather than find out about it later. You know what I'm saying? So, again, I'm not thanking Donald Trump or anybody in the Republican Party for this, but it has made the racism that I've always experienced come to the forefront. And for a lot of people who's never experienced it and have, no clue that racism is still around, if you're paying attention, you have to see it at this point.
Yeah.
And if you,
it can't be denied.
Right. And if you don't, then your bubble is really closed.
Really small.
And that's, it is what it is. But I think, 2020 is just a unique opportunity for everybody that's non-white to, anybody really, but especially if you're non-white, to get your affairs in order and start, doing more for self instead of relying on politicians that aren't going to do anything for you at the end of the day.
I totally agree.
Yeah. But
that's just our little brief overview on how we feel about this election year, politics and voting in general, and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. If you like what you heard, again, please like and subscribe. But hopefully we'll have a just as interesting topic for next week.
Mm-hmm.
And we look forward to seeing you guys then.
All right.
Later.
Have a good week, y'all.